So this is my 05 Silverado. It came with a 6-liter gas and the 4L80. After fuel went above $1 a liter, we're in Dundle, Ontario, Canada. I grabbed the calculator and realized that every 100,000 kilometers that I drove, which is about 60,000 miles, it was costing me about 28 grand in fuel. After throwing up in my mouth a little bit, I tried to sell the truck. But the truck's still worth 10 grand. Nobody has 10 grand to buy a truck. So the only other logical thing to do was pull out the 6-liter and put in a 5.9 Cummins. So I still went with the 4L80. I would have loved an Allison, but they only came behind the Duramaxes, and there's no point in pulling out a Duramax. They're good enough, but the 6-liter is just too hard on fuel. The 5.9, I almost doubled my mileage. I'm getting about 18 miles to the gallon, 21 on the highway, but almost doubled my mileage with it. So every time I go to the tank, I'm saving 120 bucks, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable to drive. The Cummins is actually out of a Ford 8000. It's a 91 12 valve, very simple. The only thing to make it run is just giving it fuel. You got your solenoid. If it's not running, it's because it's not getting fuel. So either your filter's dirty or your solenoid's not coming on. I moved all my gauges over so that I didn't want all my Christmas lights on the dash. So I moved my low oil, my oil temperature, my oil pressure, my water temperature, and my tach are all moved over. The only lights on are the service light and the theft light, and on the dash it says reduced engine power. I can reflash the computer if I want, but I really don't care. I drilled out the bulbs on the engine light and the theft light, and the reduced engine power, well, I stare at that. That's unfortunate. For the tach, if you can see this gear here, this is actually the crank sensor out of a Vortec. I grabbed a scrap Vortec from the wreckers and pulled that off the crankshaft, and then moved my sensor over, which is right here, so the tach is still functional. I tried to get it to shift without the shift controller by taking my throttle control and putting a paddle on it and connecting it to my throttle linkage, which is back here. Not that important, but I figured that's still my cruise. So as I step on it, it would hit the throttle on the injection pump, and if I wanted to cruise, it would hold it there. The problem was that I cannot hook my map sensor on it, and because there is no vacuum on a diesel engine, it's only pressure, so the truck would go into a limp mode and it would stay, I wouldn't be able to throttle it up. So I ended up putting a cable on it, and I've loved this ever since. I've got about 50,000 kilometers on it now, and the whole job is paid for. I bought a transmission adapter off of FordCummins.com. I think they're called Diesel Conversion Specialists now. The plate bolts right up to the back of the Cummins, comes with a flywheel, and the 4L80 bolts right up to it. I made my own mounts. I took the top half of the Cummins off of a Dodge bracket and just welded it to a plate which bolts to the bottom half of the 6-liter engine mounts, and I was wondering if it was strong enough. It's 50,000 K, everything's still tight, and then that's it. As for tuning the engine, there's other videos online you can look up and see what you want to do. If you want a little more horse, I don't want to be a cowboy with rolling coal or whatever, but I did want a little more juice. Your Aneroid star wheel is underneath this plug. You can turn that. You can take this cover off and just slide your fuel plate forward, take it right out, or buy a different fuel plate. And you can also play with your governor. There's also videos on how to tighten the springs on your governor. If you just tighten the springs on the governor, it will idle like shit, and it will not work. It will work, but sitting at a stoplight, you look like an idiot because it doesn't run properly. You can buy the springs. They're about 150 bucks, 200 bucks to just raise your top RPM without messing up your idle. The only problem I've had with this Cummins is behind your filler plug here. I'll take it out for a minute. On the P-pump style injection pump, there is no keyway holding the cam gear to the shaft on the injection pump. So after a while, the injection pump starts, because it's turning, it actually slides on the cam gear, and you start firing at top dead center instead of the 12-14 degrees you want before. And those markings, whatever it is, whatever your engine's tuned for, it will be on the plate right on the side to tell you what your before top dead center reading should be. So you have to pop the gear off of your injection pump, take a Q-tip with rubbing alcohol and put it on the shaft. Make sure it's spotless, a little bit of brake clean, Q-tip again, and then a little Loctite doesn't hurt when you get your proper specs, and tighten it back up again. So there's also videos how to set your timing, but if your truck doesn't start right, you have to step on the pedal a little bit to make it start, or it smokes excessively and it's a burning sensation in your eyes. That means it's fuel, unburnt fuel coming out the exhaust. Then your first place to look on a P-pump is definitely the drive gear. On the VE pumps, it is keyed, and the only way to change your timing is to loosen off your bolts on your pump and to turn your pump to get your before top dead center reading that you want. You have to put a micrometer in the back of the pump and it'll give you a measurement rather than a degree before top dead center. Other than that, I love this truck. I added a battery. That's where the Duramaxes have the battery too. You want to make sure you got a nice big air filter to give it lots of air. This one did have an air-to-air off of the Ford 8000, and you can just see the little bit of it here. I had to customize it a little bit to make the hood latch close properly. I had to extend the ears. There's a good guy down the road, he does some aluminum welding for me, so he made the ears longer so that the ears go around the radiator. So I still used the GM rad, AC condenser, alternator, and everything that I could leave stock I did, other than the engine. Because the engine is 2 cylinders longer than the 6-liter would, I had to move the transmission mounts back. Now there's holes in your frame that you can just slide that transmission mount back, and you'd have to shorten your drive shaft because it does go into the seal and wreck the seal. And another problem with that is you have to lengthen your front drive shaft as it'll vibrate because it's not on the splines enough. It was a tight fit. As you can see, the oil pan down below is fairly close to my differential. What I did was I don't know whether they're cooling fins or whether they are strength fins. I had to notch 3 of them just to give it room for when the engine torques up so that it doesn't hit the drive shaft. I used the Bowman transmission controller, which is down below there, you can see, and it's infinitely tunable as to when you want it to shift, hard shift, soft shift, whether you're hard on the pedal or soft on the pedal. It only took about an hour to install, and very happy with it. And you can see it's coming on. So sorry for that. I'd highly recommend the GMs just because Ford engineers are idiots and they're a pain in the ass to work on. The torsion bars on the GMs are a great way to make up for the extra weight. The Cummins dressed 5.9 weighs about 1,000 pounds, probably 600 is what the 6-liter would weigh. So you've got extra weight on the suspension. All you have to do is crank your torsion bars. You can get it right back up to the height or a little bit above that yet, and then get an alignment on it. So the adapter plate and flywheel was about 1,000 bucks. A new starter, which is a 6-liter Ford starter because it doesn't have the cone on it, 250 bucks. Alignment was 300 bucks. Drive shaft machining, which I couldn't do, was a couple $100. And then I also painted the whole truck. Took me about 120 hours. I did a lot of stuff messing around with that I didn't have to, especially that throttle adapter. I think I could do it again in about 70 hours. You need a MIG welder, you need torches, you need somebody who can weld aluminum or weld aluminum, different ears for the intake, especially for the turbo and the air-to-air. Other than that, I highly recommend it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. The next project is going to be a 4BT in a Tahoe. And when you do that, we'll make a video on step-by-step how we do it. I grabbed that Tahoe because it was cheap. It has a blown 5.3 in it, but again, you need the Z71 because it's got the torsion bars compared to the Air Ride. The Air Ride gives you problems, and I don't want to deal with that with the different weight of the 4BT. So yeah, tune in and we'll give you up-to-dates on the 4BT at a later time.
So follow a variety of projects that include conversions and repairs to anything from Ferraris to chainsaws. And check out the Tape Boss, my newest invention that's coming to market. And remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich.